Sparrow, it's not nap time. All right, so today I'm gonna try to halter her and attach to that lead line for the first time. In my last session, I had just got the halter on for the very first time. I did this using positive reinforcement with targeting and a countdown. From the beginning, Sparrow was a very timid Mustang and took a very long time to come around. 3, 2, 1, D. Oh my god. I got a good girl! Over time, she's become a completely different horse. She is still a wild Mustang, definitely, but she is not nearly as panicky or fearful or nervous as she was when I first got her. She now seems much more relaxed and ready to learn. 4 months later, and we finally have the halter on. This is a real game changer, and I think we're gonna see some different things from Sparrow now. I'm planning on switching over to negative reinforcement now that the halter is on, but I'm thankful that Sparrow caused me to explore positive reinforcement, which was new to me. I'll likely be using it in the future. She has been a very interesting horse for me to observe and take notes on. I am definitely learning so much from her. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. You ready to go to work? Huh? So the first thing I have to do is get her halter on. I'm going to do this by continuing to use positive reinforcement and do it from protected contact. I start by doing a targeting warm-up. Have your shoulder. Deep. Have your ear. Deep. Your shoulder. 10, 9, 8, 7. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deep. And then I move to haltering. Right, you ready to get the halter on? So I'm going to tie this loose and then tighten it once it's on her. Halter. Deep. Can you halter? Oops. 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 Halter. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deep. Maybe jaw. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deep. Have your shoulder. Whenever I do something that is new or challenging, I always go back to something that is more familiar and easier for the horse to get. So I've gone back to the basic targeting, and then you'll see me add the lead line hanging over the rail. I hope this isn't tedious to watch, showing all these steps that happen before the actual leading, but I think it's important to show the real-life journey. I'm certainly not going right out and throwing the halter on and getting started. It's a long process, but it will become shorter with time. Right now I'm trying to get the halter just a little bit tighter. I was having a little bit of trouble getting her in the right position to tighten that halter. I do want to point out that I am certainly no expert here, but I am passionate about learning and figuring this process out and then sharing that journey with you. I can feel myself trying so hard to focus on that, but the more you focus and try harder, I think they feel that. Can I have your neck? So I took a step back and removed the countdown. So take some time back, slow myself down. So I did this until she was no longer having trouble, which happened pretty quickly, so I was able to go back down to the countdown and tighten that halter. Have your jaw. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deep. It was time to add the long line. Target. Deep. I taught her to target the loops underneath the halter, so it was pretty streamlined getting it on. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deep. This is my very first time getting the lead rope attached. So far, she hasn't really noticed. She only lets me pet her like this when I've been doing positive reinforcement targeting stuff. She doesn't work for free. Oh. All right, now moving on to pressure and release. So to start out, I have to get my long line, and I like to do this by just sending the horse in the opposite direction because it keeps the lead rope still as I go forward to reach for it. And then I put a little pressure on to send her out. Now it's been a while, so I do want to remind you that early on I taught Sparrow how to round pen. This was way back on her first day here while I was still getting a feel for her, and it was also before I even started positive reinforcement. The reason I'm sharing this is because this is an important first step before I teach giving to pressure. I want the horse to be able to read my body language to change directions. I personally think this really helps when teaching pressure and release. I can use my body language as a sort of pre-cue before applying pressure on the lead line, which gives the horse a little hint to what the pressure actually means. This is definitely a technique that I will continue to use. The thing that surprised me was how much Sparrow seemed to remember from that initial round penning session nearly 4 months ago. Granted, it took her like 5 minutes to learn, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I step in front of her for the direction change and then follow through with the rope. That was pretty good for doing this for the first time in so long. I try to be relaxed and casual and leave her alone unless she breaks gait, and then I'll ask her to go back into that trot. So she's still very wild, but in a totally different headspace than she was when I first got her. I'm about to do another direction change by asking with my body and then following through with the rope and redirecting her. She is responding so well. I'm loving how calm and relaxed she is. I'm going to keep practicing the direction changes, and she's going to slowly start learning how to come off that pressure. So now I'm just trying to get a little feel for her and see if she'll yield her hindquarters. She got that big release once she turned and faced me. I'm now trying to slowly approach her to continue to get a better feel for her. I'm trying to see what her response is and if she'll let me approach her. And the answer was no, but that's okay. Here I just let the rope slide through my hands, and we'll work on that later. After lunging for a bit more, I switched it up again and then went to more of a leading style of pressure and release. Here I'm just putting a gentle light pressure off to the side and then being really quick on my releases once she comes a little bit towards me. She's much more comfortable with seeing me with her left eye and is doing a lot of shoulder blocking here. We'll address that later. So I'm now moving on to desensitizing with my stick and string. Up until this point, I've been doing more sensitizing activities, where I'm using active body language to ask her to do something. I'm now trying to teach her passive body language, where I can be moving, but not actually asking her to do something. I think that teaching them to identify active body language really goes on to help them learning what passive body language means, which in turn helps to get into closer proximity with the horse. When she cocks her leg and relaxes a bit, I take away the movement. Because I just touched on a few things, I want to throw out the reminder that I'm only sharing my thought process because I think it makes the video a little bit more interesting. I'm just reacting to my own experiences, and I could be wrong. I'm not a professional or giving advice, but these are topics for you to do your own research on if you're interested. And of course it's okay for you to have your own opinion on these things, although social media and the keyboard warriors generally don't want you to think that. Having your own opinion is just dangerous these days. Here I got a little too greedy, and that didn't go over so well with Sparrow. I was wanting to move to gently touching her back, but I screwed up my aim just a little bit. I tried going back to desensitizing beside her, but she was still pretty worked up. So I decided to redirect that energy and go back to lunging with the direction changes. When I'm training the mustangs, I do a lot of pivoting based on the situation in front of me, so it's not uncommon for me to change what I'm doing. We worked on this for a few minutes before a new situation arose. I accidentally stepped too far forward, putting a pressure on her that caused her to turn in towards the fence. Since the rope was over her back, I decided to pivot yet again and use it as an opportunity to teach something else. I swung the rope the rest of the way over her hindquarters and put a little pressure on to see if I could get her to give to it. She responded incredibly well to this. Smart cookie she is. So I'm now happy with the way that she's responding to pressure, and I want to end my session with doing some touches. At this point, it was pretty dumb of me to reach forward with a stick with that string still attached. I put a little pressure on just to get her to face up. I wanted to try touching again, but this time I wrapped up my rope around the stick. It was still a no for Sparrow. This camera angle is terrible, but this is where I tried something new. While I shouldn't have asked her to target without a treat on hand, I found it very interesting that she did touch my stick when I asked her to target. So the wheels in my brain were turning, and I wanted to experiment a little bit more and go back to that positive reinforcement.
Ready? Target.
Right away, she was willing to engage and touch the stick with her nose.
Target. Have your jaw. Your jaw. Have your star. Have your star. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, D. Have your neck. Have your neck. D. Have your shoulder. D. Okay. D. There you go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. D. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. D.
Wow. Okay, that was interesting. As you saw, we started with positive reinforcement, and then switched. I need to teach her negative reinforcement. I need to teach her yielding to pressure, and I need her to be able to be touched all over. This only happens specifically during the positive reinforcement session. At no other time can I approach her and stroke her. She just thinks that I'm gonna deed it. And you saw when I went to negative reinforcement, she had a lot of fear around being touched. Now granted, I could have done things a lot better, a lot differently. The point is, like, she had a lot of, it was challenging. Then my mind switched because with Merlin, he had a similar thing where he was yielding to pressure well, because she is yielding to pressure pretty well, very well. But he was very terrified of being touched. So I reintroduced touch to him with positive reinforcement. So I decided to try that with her. And then when I flipped back, yeah, you can just see the change. She became a lot more at ease and wanting to participate. It's just very interesting. I'm just observing this. I'm not trying to draw a conclusion from this at all. I'm just making some observations that I find really interesting. I don't view positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement as better or worse. I think they're both very valuable. I am more comfortable in negative reinforcement, and I'm learning positive reinforcement, and I'm just trying to see how can the two work with each other and play off each other. And I think I have a lot to learn. I still have so much to learn. This is just a very interesting observation on this session. So I'm just sharing that with you. Again, I'm not trying to form your opinions or sway your opinions. I'm just showing you this is interesting. I'm interested to hear from you if you've trained with positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, or done a mix of both, and what your observations have been. Anyway, that's all for this session. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. I just went to go pick up my stuff in the middle here, and look who decides to follow me.
You want to keep training? Want to say hi? Say hi.
Can I have your star?